struggle stalwart Essop Pahad has been remembered as an outspoken, forthright leader whose principles were unquestionable. Pahad passed away on Thursday after being diagnosed with cancer 4 months ago. He was laid to rest according to Muslim burial rites and under a special official funeral to mark his honor. For more on the life of Essop Pahad, we're joined by the former Minister of Intelligence Services, Ronnie Kasrils. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mr. Kasrils, and once again, thank you for your patience. As we were hearing from some of the ANC leaders, let me just hear how you are remembering and reflecting on the life of Essop Pahad.
Well, of course, it's extremely sad, and our feelings and condolences go out to his wonderful family. He was a family man, and, you know, we should all take that into account, those of us who are strugglistas our whole lives, that our family underpins us. And with Essop Pahad, he was committed to his family and the love of his family, which went both ways. And we saw this at the funeral yesterday with the family in attendance and his wonderful grandchildren sitting there as a testament to Essop Pahad, who believed in the future and was concerned about how the young generation should understand our struggle, what the sacrifices were to bring about the overthrow of the hated, racist, oppressive, exploitative apartheid system, and to give your all to build and construct a new society. So Comrade Essop was an absolute lovable human being. He had a fighting exterior, and this frightened some people, especially the adversaries, who he exposed all the time. But at the center was a soft, loving, golden-hearted human being who had such empathy with the people in our country, in our continent. He was a great Pan-Africanist, and internationally, because his whole life was a commitment to erasing racial discrimination, sexual discrimination, gender discrimination, oppression and exploitation of human beings, of humanity. And in our country, his family, his background, and from childhood right through his 84 years, from the age of 7, 8, 9, he was involved. And, you know, we're going to miss him immensely. He had a very large persona. He was a large, handsome man. And I know that we talk about giants, but he made a gigantic contribution in terms of his whole stature and that golden heart of his. And we miss him immensely. We need to understand why he was committed totally throughout his life, why he remained faithful to the ANC, the Communist Party, the liberation of our country and the liberation of humanity, a national democratic revolution and socialism. These were in his mind to the fore. And as somebody who was a thinker and an intellectual as well as an activist, he understood what Karl Marx was always making this point, that we need to understand the world we live in order to change it. So the theory and the practice, the understanding and the action go hand in hand. And Comrade Essop Pahad epitomized that right through to the very end, because as ill as he became in his ailing years, he was still totally committed to the cause in our country of going through the political emancipation into the socio-economic liberation of our people, of Africa, and internationally. He stood by the working class, the poor, the marginalized. When he was in government, in the presidency, as minister in the presidency, we saw in that period of his life such a commitment to the issues of gender, of women, of children, of the disabled, and of youth. And that's where you saw the humanity in the man. And that's how we will always remember him. And that's the point of how we do it, in terms of never ever giving up. He had such an iron resolve through thick and thin. And in relation to the problems we're going through in this period of time, including within the ANC, it was never to give up. He was extremely dedicated and faithful to the ANC. But the leaders of today who wish to honor his legacy and to emulate him in terms of what was achieved by his generation and the one before him, the Mandela, Sisulu, Slovo, and so on, that generation, and then his, is that it's not blind faith. You have to earn the support of people. And what Essop Pahad, in his total commitment and upholding the ANC, and he called it the golden ANC, the glorious ANC was his terminology, was not just the people, the leaders. You have to earn the support of the people. You've got to commit yourself to the principles, to the qualities, to the ideals, and not give in on that basis in relation to self-enrichment and therefore corruption that then takes place, that follows on from that. To be selfless, to be a servant of the people. Comrade Essop Pahad embodied that. He was a fighter. Let me say this. I met him at a boxing match. They didn't know me. I was banned and in Durban and a youngster, and I came up to Joburg to see Joe Medisi, my commander in MK, secretly. I couldn't go to meetings, but I couldn't resist going to the steps of the city hall, where Comrade Essop and his generation and the older generation, Ruth Mampati and others, were protesting against the apartheid laws in '62. And the police in civilian dress, in the crowds who were heckling and baying for blood, were waiting for an opportunity to attack. And they did that. Comrade Essop and the galaxy of our comrades there stood firm and fought back. And here I was, rushing in and leveling my hands and fists against these police. And a lot of our comrades didn't know this young white guy. And a few of them hit me. But Comrade Essop, who didn't know me at that time, had seen a photograph of me in New Age, in paper Lumzabalaso, the paper of the freedom struggle, the newspaper. And he quickly intervened and he said, no, this lighty here, he's one of us. Come on, let's join him and moor the Boers. And that forged the most wonderful friendship I saw in Comrade Essop. From that time, especially lately, this tall, wonderful guy who was really tough, who could use his fists, but he had a humor. And I saw in him Muhammad Ali, even his appearance and his humor and his use of wonderful phraseology. So follow him, the younger generation, the leadership. We should all emulate the life, the wonderful life and legacy of this great comrade, this boxer, this Muhammad Ali, Essop Pahad. May he rest in peace, and we will never forget him.
Yeah. What impact, Mr. Kasrils, do you think he's had when he was in the leadership structures? Not only was he involved with the ANC, but he was in the leadership structures of the SACP as well.
Well, this is a man who talked straight. He didn't hide behind a bit of, as he would say, a bit of jazzy words, jiving around, beating around the bush. It was said by so many ANC leaders at the funeral yesterday, and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Geraldine Fraser Moleketi and others, that what you saw in Comrade Essop was what you got. You didn't have to try and figure out what's he getting at, because he was blunt and forthright, and he laid it out straight. So that particular aspect, that quality of his, which some people were frightened of and backed off, and especially the opposition, the people of the moonshot who think they can topple the ANC. He called that moonshine, by the way. But in relation to what we can learn and follow is his absolute devotion and commitment and never ever saying die, never giving up. And when I say never say die, that's why we must understand him and the younger generation, that a human being physically dies, but when they live a life that he did, and the ideas and the commitment, that lives on, and we must maintain that.
Yeah.
And this is where we follow in the footsteps of those champions, those giants, such as Essop Pahad.
Ronnie Kasrils, thank you so much for making time for us.